Hello. Today I'm doing another I Ching video. This time we're on number 21, which is Shihe or chewing. And this is a very interesting hexagram because it is, in the Confucian commentaries, it points out that part of the reason why it's named chewing is because the theme of the hexagram is derived from the image of the hexagram, which is meant to be a mouth with an object in the middle. And this is why it said that it looks like there's something being held between the jaws of line 1 and line 6, and that it's somebody chewing on some piece of meat or something like that. The lower trigram is fire, and the upper trigram is the sun. And this is associated with thunder and lightning. The main text of this hexagram says, chewing, success, a good time for legal processes and for bringing criminals to justice. So there are two different metaphors that are being applied in this hexagram. And one of them is the metaphor of chewing some piece of meat. And the second is the metaphor of being a lawgiver or a lawmaker, a judge basically, and submitting criminals to punishment. So you could say that this hexagram is about the application of discipline in your environment, in the outside world. So there are other hexagrams like hexagram 52, for example, that are about your internal discipline. And this is about expressing your discipline outwardly. And one manifestation of that is doing the tough things, applying law or order to an environment. And, you know, it says it's a good time for legal processes in the description. The unspoken other side of that is that if it is a good time for legal processes, it's because this is a complicated time. Because as Lao Tzu said, when everybody is acting in accordance to the Tao, there is harmony. When people do not act in accordance to the Tao, you need government, right? So this is a situation where in the outside environment, things have become too lax and there isn't sufficient discipline being applied, and that's causing real problems. So it's a time to apply discipline. And you are meant to be the one who does the applying. The great work says, the rulers made the law clear to all and then enforced it solemnly and vigorously. So this is about having a strong way of doing things, but one that's also applied in an even way, right? In a way that applies to everyone the same way, right? And being fair about your discipline. So you could say that the analogy to chewing is because of the same thing. You're doing something tough and difficult to get through a process that is required for what you must accomplish, right? And the application of discipline is what chews through difficulties. The Confucian commentary says something is held between the jaws. And that's the illusion that I was talking about before. The weak line, which is number 5, is contained by the strong lines 4 and 6. Thus, it is a good time for the application of law, material or spiritual. The theme is of chewing, in other words, working through something, the process of dissolving something difficult. And obviously, if you wanted to make an internal interpretation of this, it's about putting into action the law of heaven, right, the sun, to punish, adjust, or reform the criminal elements of your own inferior person. But there's a lot of cases in divination where this is going to be applied directly to outer activities that are going on in your life. So the lines. The bottom two lines are the ones that are the most favorable. And line 1 says, the criminal's feet are shackled, he cannot walk. There's no error in this. The just application of discipline avoids recidivism. Okay, so this is like the first offender. And if you've dealt with it, if you deal with a problem early, you know, there's always that saying that kind of derives from the I Ching, that is, the best time to change something is before it happens, right? So if you end up applying this discipline early at this first step, you can avoid all kinds of problems later on. If you get line 1, that's what it's warning you to do. If you fail to do so, there'll be recidivism. The problem will come back if you're too lenient. Line 2 says, chewing into the soft outer layer. This is a bit like in a barbecue, right? You're going to see that there's all different kinds of meats that get chewed through in this hexagram. Chewing through the soft outer layer of meat, things go smoothly and without difficulty. The criminal's nose is cut off, no error, because he will then submit to proper conduct. So obviously, a criminal getting his nose cut off is a much more serious punishment than being shackled. And that's because line 2 is a weak line, right? It's a weaker line. And what it's saying here is that it is necessary to be able to apply a stronger discipline to make sure that the message gets received, right? Especially if you're perceived as being being a weak person, right? Then you have to be tougher to be able to deal with it, right? To be able to make sure that the discipline is actually imposed, that people take you seriously. Line 3, which is again another weak line, says, chewing dry meat, he is poisoned, failing through this indigestion to carry out his disciplines. Disappointment, but no long-term harm. And there's a note there, he has used outdated methods. So the third line is suggesting that you're not acting the right way for the times, right? This is somebody who is trying to be gentle at a moment where it's necessary to do things the hard way. And if you and you've also probably taken too long to get about it, right? Which is to say, dry meat means that it's been cooked too long, or it's been left sitting around too long, right? So this is how you get food poisoning, and you fail to carry out, or you get indigestion. Anyways, you fail to carry out the discipline of doing things at the right moment, and you need to make sure that you're working on getting out of that that mistaken timeliness and applying things appropriately. Then we get to line 4, and it says, chewing tough, grisly meat. Discipline is not carried out well, but he is firm and determined like a golden arrow. In other words, his inner will is strong. There is much opposition. Your discipline is not well looked upon by others, but stay strong in difficulty, luck. So this is a person who is in a position where the environment, a lot of what this is about seems to suggest that the environment around you is very weak, it's very lax. There is not a strong application of discipline, not a strong application of law. And this is like the cowboy that rides into town, and everybody's used to taking things easy and being lawless and being, undisciplined. And he's going to try to enforce the law, right? And so if he does that, at first there's going to be a lot of opposition, right? If you are the one who is determined to put things in order around you, the people who are used to things not being in order are going to be upset about it. But if you maintain your determination, after a period of opposition, eventually you will end up being proven to be in the right in this context. Line 5 says, chewing dry meat, discipline is not carried out well, but he is steady in temperament, solid and golden. His inner will is firmly established. Be determined to guard against danger. There is trouble, but no error. Line 5 is the ruling line of this hexagram, and what it suggests here is The 5 is also the ruler position, right? It's the position that represents the king, the boss, the person in charge. And it says here that, again, chewing dry meat, so it suggests that it's something that's been put off for too long, right? Like the rules themselves have become very lax. And this person isn't in a particularly strong position to carry out these rules. However, as the commentary says, he has strong support, particularly from line 4, right? That cowboy line. So what it suggests when you're in that situation, you want to do reform, but you're not the tough guy, right? You're someone who is not in a particularly strong nature yourself. It says that instead of trying to be the tough guy, well, maybe you can get the tough guy to back you, right? But beyond that, you have to act in a way that is true to your temperament. And so if your temperament is not aggressive, then the other way to do this, rather than by force, is by a determined insistence, right? This is yin, this is the feminine energy of where you are, by repeated insistence and a kind of gentler coercion rather than by trying to enforce all at once, you can end up creating the same change as long as you maintain your determination, because there are going to be people that will be against you in this. And finally, line 6 says, the stupid criminal is put in stocks, his ears are cut off. Woe, he is too stubborn to mend his ways. Distrust your predilections. So in a lot of hexagrams, the top line is what's called the sage line. It represents someone who's beyond things, or in situational hexagrams like this one, it represents when things are already past their prime, past their peak. And so in this case, we have that criminal, right? And the criminal has been allowed to keep being recidivist for so long that they end up being basically incorrigible, I guess would be the term. He is too stubborn to mend his ways. And so this is someone who's already too far gone and is going to end up suffering the worst punishments for the bad choices that they're making. Distrust your predilections is kind of a last-ditch attempt to give you a warning if you're in this position, because it means you've been very stubbornly determined to repeat your same errors over and over again. And now it's you that the discipline is being applied against. And so distrust your predilections is saying, basically, if you want to succeed in this situation, the only option you have is to do the opposite of what your instincts always tell you to do, and to just be able to become the opposite person from how you are, to act in the opposite way from how you normally act. So that's the basics of this hexagram. And I hope that this is helpful to you in your I Ching studies. And if you wanted more information, then, first of all, check out on Facebook the Magicians I Ching Facebook group. And if you want to learn the more advanced teachings of the I Ching, then check out the I Society. Every time I do one of these videos, I also put another video with the additional teaching into the I Society group. So check that out in the Facebook page. And if you haven't already and you like this video, check out the rest of this particular series. The playlist of the I Society will have the previous 20 hexagram commentaries, and there will be more to come, so be sure to subscribe. And feel free to share this video anywhere you'd like. Thank you very much.